This video contains real-life crime cases that may include disturbing details, including violence and sensitive content. Viewer discretion is strongly advised, especially for younger audiences. She was just 4 years old. Tiny feet, big dreams, a heart full of love. Her name was Megam Khung. To the world, she was a smiling child, full of laughter and curiosity. But behind closed doors, she was living a nightmare no one noticed or no one wanted to see. In the heart of safe, orderly Singapore, something unthinkable happened. A little girl, stripped of dignity, made to sleep outside like trash, starved, mocked, beaten, day after day. She cried for warmth. She whispered for food. She begged her mother for a hug. But her voice was met with silence. Then one February morning in 2020, that voice fell silent forever. Her tiny body erased and burned in a metal barrel, dumped like she never mattered. For months, no one even knew she was gone. This is not just a story about a child's death. This is a story of innocence betrayed, system failings, and one little girl named Megam Khung. Megam Khung was born on October 4th, 2015, in Singapore. She was the daughter of Simon Kung Wei Nan and Fu Li Peng. A bright, innocent child, Megam brought light to those who knew her. But her story would become one of Singapore's darkest and most heartbreaking tragedies. Megam's parents married in 2015, but separated in late 2016 due to growing tensions and Simon's criminal record. Simon had been in and out of prison for drug-related offenses. After their separation, Fu was granted custody of Megam. However, instead of raising her herself, Fu left Megam in the care of her own mother, Chua Ah Kim, Megam's maternal grandmother. From early 2017 onward, Megam lived with her grandmother full-time. During these early years, Megam's life was relatively peaceful. She was a curious and kind-hearted child. Although only a toddler, she showed signs of being gentle, cooperative, and eager to learn. Her grandmother provided stability and affection. It was a simple life, but for Megam, it was safe and filled with love. In 2017, Megam was enrolled at Healthy Start Child Development Center, part of Beyond Social Services. The teachers there described her as a quiet and obedient child. She rarely complained, always listened, and was eager to participate in school activities. Her love for drawing and playing with colors was evident even at that young age. She wasn't just another student in class. She stood out because of her innocence and gentle spirit. In January 2019, Fu began a relationship with a man named Wong Shixiang. By that time, Fu had moved in with Wong to a rented apartment at Suites at Guillemot. Megam started visiting them on weekends. These visits, initially harmless, marked the beginning of a drastic and horrifying change in Megam's life. In early March 2019, preschool staff began noticing bruises on Megam's body, marks on her face, arms, and legs. When questioned, Fu claimed they were the result of accidents or discipline. Preschool staff, concerned, reported the matter to the Early Childhood Development Agency. Fu was advised not to use physical punishment. Despite this, no official action was taken. The warnings went unheeded, and the abuse escalated. In September 2019, Fu officially withdrew Megam from preschool, stating that the school didn't adequately teach Chinese. From then on, Megam lived full-time with Fu and Wong. It was a turning point. Deprived of the safe environment her grandmother and preschool had provided, Megam was now fully under control of her abusers. The abuse intensified over time. Meghan was subjected to frequent beatings, canings, and verbal humiliation. Wong, in particular, developed cruel punishments. He would press on Meghan's ribcage to cause internal pain without leaving visible bruises. He and Fu would force her to wear a soiled diaper on her head, parade her around in shame, and even feed her from the garbage. Meghan was made to sleep in a tiny planter box on the balcony, exposed to rain and heat. She would be left there without food or clothing. Fu and Wong shaved off her hair, forced her to announce her misbehavior out loud, and even made her eat things no child should ever be forced to consume. All of this was recorded by Fu on her phone, a cruel, calculated effort to mock and dehumanize her own daughter. As weeks turned into months, Meghan's physical and emotional state deteriorated. She became frail, malnourished, and withdrawn. The spark in her eyes faded. Her pleas for food and clothing went unanswered. Her once safe world had collapsed into a prison of pain and fear. What makes this tragedy even more haunting is that the warning signs were there. Meghan's bruises, her absence from school, her grandmother's concern, all were red flags. But nothing was done. No one came to save her. And Meghan, just 4 years old, endured her suffering in silence. This was the calm before the storm. What followed would shake an entire nation to its core. February 21st, 2020. Just another day to the outside world. But inside the apartment at Suite at Guillemot, Megam Khung's final day of life was unfolding in chilling silence. It had been nearly 5 months since she was withdrawn from preschool. In that time, the abuse she faced escalated into torture. That morning, Meghan woke up in the narrow planter box on the balcony, her bed for several weeks. She was unclothed, unfed, and emotionally shattered. She was no longer the curious little girl she once was. On that day, Wang Shixiang was angry. According to court reports, he and Fu were upset because Meghan had once again relieved herself indoors. Instead of offering her help or compassion, they decided to punish her. But this time, the punishment would go too far. Meghan was brought into the living room, where Wang repeatedly punched her in the abdomen. One blow struck her so hard that she fell backward. Unable to get up, she complained of pain, clutched her stomach, and struggled to stand. Fu did not seek medical attention. Instead, Meghan was left alone, lying on the floor for the rest of the day. As the hours passed, she stopped crying. She stopped moving. When night fell, she slipped into unconsciousness. By the next morning, February 22nd, 2020, Megam Khung was dead. What followed was not grief. It was panic. Fu and Wang realized they had gone too far. But instead of reporting the death or calling for help, they hatched a plan to hide the crime. For weeks, they kept Meghan's lifeless body in their apartment, hiding it from visitors and friends. They told no one what had happened. On May 8th, 2020, over 2 months after Meghan's death, they moved her body from the apartment. Wang had constructed a makeshift incineration barrel in Tuas, an industrial area far from their home. There, he placed Meghan's remains inside and set them ablaze. The fire burned for hours. What was left of her was reduced to ash. They scattered her remains in the sea, hoping that no one would ever know. For months, Fu and Wang continued with their lives as though nothing had happened. They used Meghan's name when questioned by neighbors. They acted as if she'd been sent away to live with relatives. They lied to everyone, including Meghan's own grandmother, who became increasingly suspicious after a month of silence. On July 20th, 2020, Meghan's father, Simon Khung, filed a police report after failing to contact his daughter for months. Authorities launched an investigation. The web of lies began to unravel. When questioned, Fu and Wang gave conflicting stories. Under pressure, they confessed. The truth about Megan's death and the horrifying attempt to destroy her body shocked the entire nation. This was no longer just a case of child abuse. It had become one of Singapore's most disturbing and tragic criminal cases in decades. The arrest of Fu Li Ping and Wang Shixiang sent ripples of horror through Singapore. As the details of Megan's prolonged suffering emerged, the public demanded answers and justice. Police charged Fu and Wang with murder under Section 302 of the Penal Code. But as investigations continued and more details surfaced, prosecutors made a strategic decision. In April 2022, the murder charge was withdrawn. Instead, Fu and Wang were charged with intentionally causing grievous hurt with a dangerous weapon. This decision stunned many. However, it became clear that proving intent to kill would be difficult. Despite the horrifying abuse Megan endured, the prosecution meticulously laid out the evidence. Videos recorded by Fu showing Megan being mocked, beaten, and humiliated. Audio clips where she could be heard begging for food. Images of the balcony planter box where she was forced to sleep. Medical reports confirmed internal injuries, bruising, malnutrition, and signs of prolonged abuse. In March 2024, the High Court found Wang Shixiang guilty of causing grievous hurt and sentenced him to 20 years in prison with 12 strokes of cane. Fu Li Ping was sentenced to 14 years in prison. In sentencing, the judge remarked that their cruelty was abhorrent and calculated, noting Fu's betrayal as a mother. Today, there is no grave for Megam Khung. Her ashes were scattered in the sea. There is no place for flowers, no stone carved with her name. But her memory lives on, in the headlines that once screamed her story, in the hearts of strangers who cried for a child they never knew, and in the quiet determination of society vowing never again. Let Megan's story be more than a case file. Let it be a reminder. Every child deserves to be seen, to be heard, to be safe. Megam Khung never got that chance. But in telling her story, maybe, just maybe, we can save another